Hello. What I'm about to talk about here is kind of apropos of nothing, but at the same time apropos of everything. I'm not sure when I'll post this. There won't be any, I don't think there'll be anything really significant about the day that I post this, but I'm just saying it's not relevant to anything going on in the world per se. Well, at the same time, it is quite relevant. I know I'm talking in paradoxes here, but I wanted to get this out there because I feel that it is important, and I feel that it is something that needs to be heard, something that needs to be said, and something that needs to be heard. And I'm just feeling kind of expansive right now. Feeling expansive, and I think that's part of just feeling melancholic in general. So I'm in a certain mode of mind, and that's why I'm choosing to do this recording now. Y'all know that I am 52 years old as I'm filming this. I don't know how much time I have left on this earth. I know that the bulk of my time is behind me. I'm not expecting to just keel over any day. I actually expect to go on for a while longer, but at the same time, when you near the end of life, it gives you a different perspective on things, and you realize certain things, and or maybe you don't. I mean, there's a lot of real dumb 52-year-old and older people who haven't learned a damn thing. So I don't know if you learn anything, but I think I've learned some things that I wanted to share here with y'all. And I think who I'm talking to might be mostly young men or younger men, but I don't want to exclude anyone. Maybe this is relevant to some women too. I don't know. I get the feeling things are rather different with women. Not only today, but maybe always. But I think maybe especially today. So, where do I begin? And of course, I'm not showing my countenance. Whenever I'm being really introspective, I don't want to show my face. I don't want to feel the self-consciousness that I feel when I'm putting the camera on my face. I'm usually okay with pointing the camera at myself and looking at myself in the eye and saying what I need to say, but I think when you have to dig deeper, it's harder to do that. It becomes easier to just point it away from yourself, and that's what I'm doing right now. So you can see my dusty dashboard. I'm somebody, by the way, I feel like in some ways like Pigpen from Peanuts. Like I just bring dust and a kind of mess wherever I go. It's just the way I am. It's just something about maybe you could say maybe it's just because I don't clean up enough. I don't know. I don't think it's an issue of hygiene. It's just I'm not a neat freak. I'm the very opposite of being a neat freak, and probably to a fault. But that's how I am. That's how I've grown to be. And when you're in your 50s, you're not changing. I mean, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I ain't changing. Okay, so what do I have to say? What do I want to say? Uh, I'm somebody who, for most of my life, has had like an inner monologue. I've always had things on my mind. I've always I've always been introverted. I've always been someone who really lives in my head a lot. And I haven't been a total recluse. Obviously, you don't have two children by being a total recluse, but nevertheless, um, I'm inclined just to be. I'm not someone who's inclined to be chatty. Or is saying chatty, is that demeaning it? I'm not meaning to demean extroverted people, because I don't think there's anything wrong with being extroverted. But it's just not my way. So I've always had a need for, like, you can only be in your head so much, and it's very refreshing to get out of your head every once in a while. And that's why I think I grew to love movies, going to movies, because to me that was the best experience of getting out of my head. And that's why, even though I'm an introvert, even though I'm somebody who likes his own company and often prefers his own company, doesn't mind doing things by himself at all, I still am aware, I'm still nevertheless aware that when I have interactions with people, with people whom I love, let's say, or people whose company I treasure, I always come away feeling better afterwards. Always. So even though I'm an introverted person, if my life could be filled with people, well, maybe not wall to wall, but, but if there could be more, interactions with people who I love and treasure, or who have interesting things to say to me, then I'm aware that does have it makes a person happier. And that's something that, it's a grudging thing for an introvert to have to admit. Somebody who's an introvert and doesn't feel like there's anything wrong with being an introvert, knows that introverts sometimes get a bad rap. Like, oh, you're so shy. Why don't you just need to come out of your shell a little bit, that kind of thing. Well, yeah, I do get tired of, the condescension that some people have for introverted types of people. But at the same time, I do grudgingly admit that we need interaction. We need other people in our lives. We can't just totally make it on our own. We can't. But here's the thing, though. This now is when I'm gonna start to contradict myself a little bit, because in a way, especially if you're a man, especially if you're a young man or a middle-aged man or any kind of man, like, something I learned through bitter a bitter trial and error is that there's nobody you can talk to. It's sounding very nihilistic. It's sounding, what I'm saying is, if you're like me and you've got a lot on your mind and there's a lot of things that you're thinking about, and there's a lot of things that you'd like to run by somebody and, get their perspective on it and have an exchange, and, and you'd like to reveal something of yourself. You'd like to open up a little bit about yourself and all that, just because you would be, you'd want to do that. You want to do that with somebody who you think is going to be able to help you, and who somebody or somebody whose interaction is valuable, not somebody who's just not going to know what you're talking about, or who's just not interested. You want to avoid those types of people, like when Travis Bickle tries to talk to a wizard in Taxi Driver, one of the most painful scenes in cinema. He tries to open up, but just can't. Doesn't know what to say, and Wizard doesn't know what he's talking about. And those of you who've seen the scene know what I'm referring to. I think you ultimately do have to keep your own counsel. You have to keep your own counsel. There's a lot of stuff, and like that's something where you have to work against this increasingly feminized culture. This culture, like BetterHelp, like they're really pushing this therapy stuff on y'all, on all of us. Like, with BetterHelp, you can do that. You can find somebody, you can find a therapist easily. They want everybody to get on to everybody to be in therapy. They want everybody to be in therapy. I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't believe in therapy. I don't believe that therapy, quote unquote, works. I say this as someone who's been in therapy, who's seen a therapist a couple of times. Once when I was late high school, early college age, and the second time mostly in my 40s. More recently. And I've got to say that in both cases, even though the therapist in both cases, and I've written about both of these therapists on my Substack page, if anyone's interested. This is not a plug, but it's just saying, if you're interested to know more, because I'm not going to elaborate on these two therapists here. But if you want to know more about me, about what it was like, what therapy was like for me in those two situations, you can read about it on my Substack page. You'll have to scroll around, but you can find it. You'll find it. Just type in Andy Nowicki therapy. Substack. So I got to say, in both cases, what I will say here is that in both cases, with both of these therapists, I think they both meant well. I think they both were good people who meant well. I have nothing personally against them, but I think therapy is bunk. I don't believe in it. I don't think it works. And I think it's like the way they're trying to sell it now. I just think it's a scam. And this isn't to say that therapists are bad people, or that if you get a therapist, if you go on BetterHelp and you get a therapist and you talk to him, or her, it might help. There's something helpful about just talking to someone. Don't get me wrong. There's something therapeutic about that, but that can be anyone, not someone who occupies the role of therapist. That's something that you can get from talking to anyone who you think halfway understands what you're saying and is taking what you have to say seriously. But I think ultimately you carry your you carry the weight with you. You carry your trauma. You carry your disappointment, your melancholy, your sadness. All these things are things that you're just stuck with them. You're stuck with them, and you just have to deal with them on your own, ultimately. Because here's another thing, especially when you're a man, nobody cares. Nobody really cares. Nobody wants to hear you spill your guts. It's just not, it's not, like, therapists will be there, will let you spill your guts. They're being paid to do it. It's in a therapeutic setting, and where that's what you're supposed to do. But the other thing about therapy, in my experience, I was in it for years. Like, what's the plan, guys? I thought there was I thought this was about me getting better. And, there was no real getting better. It was just, okay, I have I have my therapy session today, so I'll get to talk about, so maybe I'll, feel better after I talk about these things. But long term, there was nothing that I got really out of these therapy sessions. Nothing where I wouldn't have been basically the same if I hadn't been to therapy. So that's basically to say, even though it sounds harsh, that therapy is a waste of time and a waste of money. Especially if you're a man, I would say. And, like I said, the feminized culture wants you spilling your guts all the time. And, being emotionally emotionally available, or being emotionally what have you. I'm not mocking being emotionally available in the sense, like, if you have a child, you want to be sensitive to the child, and not or if you have if you're in a marriage, you want to be emotionally sensitive to your husband or your wife. And you want to the same way with your friends, right? I'm not mocking anything like that. But the whole idea that you're it's just not good for you to go around with all this stuff bottled up. In it, that's just, like, they talk about that. They use that phrase, bottled up. Like, you're going around with things bottled up inside of you. That's bad. You got to let it out, And there was even this one form of therapy, this one crazy form of therapy, primal scream therapy. A doctor named Yanov, who was saying you go back to your childhood, all your childhood traumas, and you just scream and let it out, and you feel better afterwards. I think that's how it's supposed to happen. And that's what that Tears for Fears song, shout, 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 let it all out. These are the things I can do without. Come on, I'm talking to you. Come on. Because Roland Orzabal and Kurt Smith of Tears for Fears, the band. My first concert ever was Tears for Fears. They believed in that stuff for a little while. I don't know whether it was ultimately. I don't know if it was more than a little while, but they did. They were into it. So yeah. My experience with primal screaming or with venting or with any form of letting it out is that you don't feel better afterwards. You don't feel any better afterwards. All right? It's like you just make a mess. You get yourself upset. You get yourself wound up. And it's not better afterwards. It's not like you see yourself better afterwards. After you've primal screamed, you're still exactly the way you were before. My point is that you really have to go it alone. You really have to be at peace with the fact that you're going to have to go it alone. And this is harder thing to accept. It was surprisingly hard for me to accept. Because I'm naturally an introvert. So you think that would be a very easy thing for me to accept. But I had this fantasy in my mind that somewhere along the way, I would it would work out for me, and I would I would have my breakthrough, and then I would be happier. Maybe not happy, but happier. But that doesn't happen. Okay? Maybe you're not happy for a lot of the time. I was aware when I was young that I was happy for most of the time. And then at some point along the way, with the Sturm und Drang of adolescence and what came after that, it was like the knob got turned way, significantly down. So now I just don't feel things. I don't go through my days with as bright of a feeling as I did when I was a kid. Do I miss it? Sure. Of course I do. Do I wish I could get it back? Yes, I do wish I could get it back. That was like being able to just have all of your senses engaged so much of the time, and just to see the wonder in things, not just to understand it, but to feel it, to feel it in your gut, and to know that you are like a part of this in some way. There was a mystical aspect of it, of childhood happiness for me, that and it wasn't anything. It wasn't because I did anything. I didn't meditate or anything like that. Wouldn't have thought to do anything like that. It was just something I got just from existing, and from whatever, the fact of being a child. When you're a child, when I was a child, I did childish things, but when I grew up, I put away my childish things, like St. Paul says somewhere, something like that. So you're going to have accumulated, you call it trauma, call it just sadness, call it dissatisfactions. Things aren't going to work out in a lot of ways. Life is deeply, deeply unsatisfying in many, many ways. And people let you down a whole hell of a lot. A whole hell of a lot, I'll tell you. But ultimately, you have to just keep your own counsel, and you have to be stubborn about it. You have to be stubborn about keeping your own counsel. You have to refuse to spill your guts. Because the people who tell you to spill your guts and think that it's going to make things better afterwards, they are dumb. They are liars. They might be true believers in something, or they might just be, trying to sell you some cure-all. They might be snake oil salesmen. It doesn't work that way, all right? And so what you have to do is just be okay with, in some ways, not being okay. And you have to insist on keeping your dignity, keeping the dignity of your own counsel, and not spilling your guts on command, because I think they want to break you down. There's a part of the culture that is very evil right now. They want to break you down. They want you to humiliate yourself. You've got to just say no. Hell no. I'm not doing that. I'm a man. I will keep my own counsel. And your solicitations will go unheeded. BetterHelp and whoever else. All right, that's where I think I'll end my thoughts. I'm about to run out of batteries here. I don't know when I'll post this, but maybe sometime soon. Feel free to leave your comments below if you wish, and talk to y'all soon.